out month to month to month. The first one is the turnover, which is in January.
Oh, we'll wait for that.
And our, and I think by corporate law, this group could actually go to the end of 2015, which would be 2 years and 8 months.
I don't think they want to.
So let me go ahead and I'll get together, I'll put it on the website, and we'll start reaching out in the community to see who can get on this committee. We're going to try to get these 5 things.
And we'll have a report back to us by next month's meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So with those changes.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, next on the agenda is a contract for old business. I think we've touched, I don't think there's much to talk about other than Vanessa has provided, and I think Don has, you want to read off with that, a letter from Comcast on the date of actual, that they received the termination?
It doesn't have an actual date on it, but we know that from what we've already researched. The ending date is 12/31/2013, which is this year. And the Vanessa, I acknowledge that Cypress Lakes had provided notification of their intention to cancel the bulk video service at terms ending as identified by Jackie Lieber, who was the prior accountant on this particular account, as you said. Can you please forward an updated address list? This will assist in confirming our records are accurate and allow me to provide some options to the board. This was from Kenneth Prince. I have found out since then that we have got, according to what we got from Vanessa, 1,022 people in our community that are actually using the contract. And I know that I was kind of trying to push this thing to end it early, and that probably would be not a wise thing to do, because now people would have to be flipping the bill for the cable contract and going out on their own. So it's ending at a good time at the end of the year, just before our next budget actually kicks in. So we did talk to the attorney at no charge, and he said by the time we went back and forth, we burn up 2 or 3 months, which is almost getting close to September, which we want to close it out anyway. And I think we've already gone over the bridge that we do want to end this contract.
So we have the official date that it ends, and we just need to make sure that we are in compliance with them as far as giving the, was it 60-day termination?
Let it not be late.
90 days.
So we should start this September 1st and get acknowledged from that. Obviously, we'll do a return receipt.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you for this.
Anyone else have anything on Comcast? No? The next is the landscape task force presentation.
We formed a landscape task force at our last official board meeting. I had the most amazing experience with committees that I'm very excited at the future of being able to establish more committees with the community's voice. More importantly, we took the most divisive actions in the community and they worked together beautifully. So I would like to give it up to, call it press on please, David. With your sardine. Dee Dee Paco is one of our prior board members. Tracy Reiner. Myself. And then Linda Student will be our presenter to tell you our findings. She's our routine girl.
I didn't know if you guys got this or not.
Yep.
Comparison?
We have that.
You just
Yes.
saw,
Yeah, everyone should have that.
all of you have all these. You guys have So we went, we started out, first day we visited 2 sites the first day because we couldn't find an address at the other one. So that was kind of a little snag. But then we actually worked them later. But on 2 Mondays, we took, literally the day, and went to these sites. And then we met yesterday to decide, we had decided on our top 3. And out of those 3, we met yesterday and had a presentation from the top 3. Out of those, we took a vote and decided unanimously on the one that we're presenting tonight.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yep, please fill in. Anybody on the committee that I'm leaving anything out?
Part of the due diligence, guys, just so that you're aware, we had a 37-page scope of work proposal that was given out, RFP that was given out to every single one of our vendors. After we got their bids back, we did a comparison analysis to see what services
Amanda created all that. She's got a lot of work into that.
A spreadsheet with everybody listed on.
We did a comparison analysis, and because we had the scope of work in the RFP, we were able to compare apples to apples of every single vendor. From there, it made it really quick for us to be able to look at our cost analysis. And each vendor, each person from the committee was assigned a bid to do reference checks, full due diligence, verify what additional perks outside of the scope of contract that we would get. Then we visited the site properties to make sure that whatever vendor we were going to be looking at was going to be capable of handling the size and continue to give them the same quality that we expect or better. All right.
2 quick questions, just so the community knows. Who was the one that did not submit properly? Which was the?
Nature's
Okay, and who were in the top 3?
There was Valcrest,
Okay.
Proscape, and
Which one was, I'm sorry.
They're awful. Not like clients, but our scope of work.
Real thin, nothing.
Yeah, we got it. That you can see the bid, you might have actually even overlooked it because it wasn't a folder, it was in the packet. It was not in compliance with our RFP. I did.
okay, I'm going to give you the numbers. Blade Runners came in at $222. This is base price now. Base price is different than the whole package. Okay, their base price was $222. Valcrest was $220, and Proscape was $164,964. Now, currently, our
By the
base.
way, I'm sorry, I'm going to do it one more time. Valcrest is like your Aston Martin of landscaping, just so you know. Go ahead.
Currently, our landscape base price is $265,000. If the board decides to vote for Proscape to accept it, that's going to be a savings of $100,036 off the base price for the exact same thing. We compared every company through the scope of work, what they were telling us that they would do, and let me tell you, we grilled these people. They were like, and they were captive in a van because they were driving us around, so I think what are they going to do to get us out of the van? But we really asked them a lot of questions. Now, we even got Proscape to reduce the irrigation and the tech assistant price per hour because they were at $90, but that is for both of them. It would be $55 and $35, which would have been $90 to use 2 guys per hour. We got them to reduce it, and this is about standard practice, to 45 and 25, which that would be, if we had to use 2 guys, it would be a savings of $20, but $10 off of each one of those. Then we brought in foreclosures, because we have to be paid to have the grass cut for these properties. So we were currently paying $25 per cut with the current vendor, and they were going to do it for $15 a cut. So there is more savings there. Now, in addition, Proscape is going to give us a 5% return on our base price of the $164,964. I'm just going to round it to $165 since it's so close, because I do that a lot, for a reinvestment amount of money. So that means that because if they sign with Strobscape, that they're immediately going to give us like $8,250 to do any kind of upgrades, whatever we want to use it for, whether our irrigation, to do enhancements to the proper, to the whole community, whatever they decide they want to do with that. Now, keep in mind, this is something, and I told Amanda this. There is still going to be a lot of repairs, maintenance things that need to be done. For instance, the well at the park has been hit by lightning, and I'm told twice, so it doesn't work. Hasn't worked for 20 months, okay? The well we were informed out here by the clubhouse is going dry. Now, these are two expenses that we would have to take out of the landscape budget if they chose to do this, okay, to repair this, which you're going to have to repair it at some point. But if you consider the savings we're going to have, we're still going to be under the landscape budget that's budgeted for this year of $307,000 by $42,087. And that's if you would spend the total savings of $100,000. So you've got a big cushion to be able to put toward the community for repairs and maintenance that we didn't have before.
I read somewhere, I don't know if it was an email, I'm trying to remember now, but there was another $5,000 in there for dog or something, or recycles, some kind of trash bins.
For one of our payroll personnel, Bruce Mounts currently is the one who cleans our doggy stations. In our scope of work, one of the things that's included is that we will have somebody, a vendor, Proscape will be on property 52 days or 52 weeks a year, every single day to make sure that they're emptying our trash and picking up the debris in the community. So we have also saved kind of $4,900 in personnel.
I got a question on that. Regarding like the doggy stations, I know Tricia sent me an email today saying that the doggy stations are included in the trash pickup.
Yeah.
Has Proscape specifically said that they will pick up the doggy stations?
Yes.
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 Okay.
We
That's what
specifically
we
asked
asked, yes,
Okay.
it's right here. Actually, let me give you this one, so you can see it. They have all 5 of their.
They will have a guy
They
here.
didn't say just trash containers, because trash
No, they
containers.
know doggy stations. I use the
Okay.
term doggy
Okay,
stations.
right.
Jeff?
This question because I'm a vendor, I have a business, and this is a large property, and I'm just kind of curious with the price difference. Are they doing it to be, like, they want to showcase this property for other potential? So I'm trying to figure, that's a large discount. The only way I would do that is say, hey, look how beautiful I can make this property. Is that kind of the deal? Or
Can I answer that?
Absolutely.
what was that?
I asked if I could answer that. We found out from Proscape that they had outbidded themselves. They were overpricing their bids, so they lost several contracts in the fact that they overpriced themselves and weren't able to be competitive in the market anymore. Because of that, they are hungry. They are very hungry for an account. They have one property on East Orlando, and they would like for this property to be their premier property that they can advertise. Now, this is a win-win situation for us. We have a hungry vendor that wants to come in here who works with $1 million homes and residences. We got to see the properties. They are beautiful. They want a premier property over in East Orlando. We have the capability and the budget to be able to provide them that too. 3, as they bring in their clients from other HOAs who want business, guess what? We increase our property values. We can't ask for a government on this.
Can we get even like referral credits for like other neighborhoods? Like,
You are interested in You're not going to be like
yeah, you refer Live Oaks, right? If we refer Live Oaks,
Yes.
do we get a $5,000 credit? You know, these type of things.
Jeff, we can explore that opportunity.
Okay, I'm just curious.
No, if, like they took, bid and take Proscape.
Right.
What they would do then, after they bring it up to the next level, as they kept telling us, then what they would do would put us in there as a reference. And they would then be contacting the LCAM, the board members, whatever, just like we did, to review properties.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What are their renewal quotes?
Say again?
What are their renewal quotes?
The renewal thing is in there, and that's one of my suggestions in here. They do have a clause in the sample contract in there that says auto renew every year under the same conditions. If you don't want to auto renew, I would suggest if you write the contract, put it in there for 1-year term. Because otherwise, and they do have a 30-day out. that you notify them by certified mail to.
No, but I'm saying, if they're gonna give you like 165 this year, case
Yeah.
wise, what are they saying the second year will be?
Is there a
They're gonna
percentage
give-
increase, is what she's asking?
Yeah, they haven't said that because
Because
this is
it
for
would be
one
good to
year.
get, to kind of
It
get
would be,
some,
but
You would
We
like
gotta
to lock
get
them in
there.
for a couple years?
Yeah.
oh, of course.
For this much
Well,
money.
you know, 10%, you know, just set some kind
And
of
that's
limit on
something they
what.
could work out if they wanted to renew with this company, if they do a great job and everything, and they want to renew, even though they know. I am against auto renew all the time because I think landscapers get complacent and they will not keep their, keep up the work like they want to.
No, it should be an option. I'm not
Yes,
saying
that's a
all
good
of them,
thing.
I
Yeah.
just should be.
Danny?
If it becomes auto renewal at that same price, what happens if their cost of their purchases for us goes down, we're still paying too much?
Exactly.
We should be able to negotiate if gas is going to go down, but if plants and upkeep of other materials go down, I want to pay the same price we paid last year if we can
Automatically.
beat them down and get the price
There's
a
a
little
lot of things to rebid every year, because you're gonna get the best ones.
And, reason you wouldn't want all that in the new, like you said, because you can read, tell them, if, give us a good price scale, we tell them what, then we'll stay with them. That's always,
I'm gonna interrupt here, we need to stay right by Robert's rules, so go ahead and.
Okay, Trosgate, they're gonna have a website where residents, if they have issues, that you can directly put the issues on the website as a communication source. They also want space in our newsletter that goes out, so that they can address like, either monthly chinch bugs, anything that might affect your own lawns, so that they can kind of give you some advice on what to do. And they will attend monthly board meetings. They will attend residential gatherings. Whatever you want them to do, they'll be there.
Did they talk about providing any type of service to the residents other than maybe a discount rate or anything like that?
No, no. All right, wait. They've been in business for 18 years. I just kind of did a little bit of this. They, like Manny said, they manage high-end communities, Phillips Landing, where the homes are like $1 million plus. They provide a monthly SAP, which is a site assurance program. And what this is, they give this to the board every single month. And they describe by guideline all the work that they've done. And then if they don't get it done, then it carries over to the next month, but that's going to be larger items, okay?
I don't know. Is that not, I thought that was one of them,
This is just an example, I mean, of what they do. That, no, they will give this to the board.
Clarification on the site assurance program, your manager of the property will be walking around, anything that he notes that hasn't been completed, proper palm trimming, there's issues with debris or weeds or whatever, he will put that on and say, this is what we need to have accomplished, so it gives a foresight as well as to what they need to complete for the following month, so that you're aware.
And they have a certain guy that comes and to pick up debris also, so. They will walk the property with a designated person of the board or someone else to inspect the work and point out any issues. And one thing they did that nobody else did, all 5 of these managers signed off on every one of our scope of work pages. So they all knew it. Now, couple more items. They do treat for fire ants on just a regular basis, like spot treat. But they can use a product called Top Choice that guarantees no fire ants for 1 year. Now, this will be an additional cost, but you know we have fire ants everywhere here. And especially around the pool areas, the playgrounds, the park, wherever people are going to gather. This might be a good thing to do. This is totally up to them. With it being guaranteed for 5 years, or for a year, the manufacturer will have to give them the material to retreat it if we get fire ants in the treated areas. Now, they said, they gave us a price, the equivalent of covering 17 acres would cost an additional $6,200. This is a very expensive product because it is guaranteed for 1 year for no fire rates. So I think that's it.
I'd like to make one more comment before we motion to the board for vote. When Blade Runners presented to us yesterday, I know that we were quoted at the bid of $222. But Blade Runners, when they did their final presentation to us yesterday, said that they would take the median or the average price between the three, sorry, not median, the average price between the three bids, which would bring their contract down to 202. Just so the board knows as we make this vote. At this time, I would like to motion that we accept Proscape as our new vendor for 2000.
There's more discussion because, just a little clarification. So far as Blade Runner's contract with us, it's $258.
265.
265 for last year, but 258 budgeted for this year.
Yes.
For 2021.
Right.
Have the contract in here.
And it went down from, 355 for the year to
Okay,
307.
so you're saying that the contract that says 258 in my hands here is wrong?
Well, that's for 20, is that 2014?
That's the last contract that we
Yeah.
had was from 2009, and it was 260. I think that had 258.
258, okay. And the other comment that was made is that our annual budget is like 300 and some odd thousand. We're just talking about one line out here. We're only talking about grounds maintenance. The only thing that was budgeted was the 258 that is in the Blade Runner's contract. So just so there's no distortion here that, we're going to be saving $200,000. It's $93,000 difference for that.
Right.
So, just for clarification purposes. One comment that I like to make is that we talk about the wells running dry, and I totally understand that, but I don't think that's going to have to come out of our expense budget because we have in our reserves, there's an item there for irrigation, and there was at least $10,000 that was put away. I don't have that copy of the reserve study
Is that
with me.
just for the wells?
It's for irrigation, and I think that's going to go hand in hand to use for that purpose. So I think that we're probably in okay shape in that regard. We'll probably have to get an estimate for that, though, and get a few estimates, actually.
I'm sure that would have to be contracted.
We talked about it.
Now, the other thing is that you mentioned that there's a sample contract, the sample contract that we could look at.
In the pro state
That's
budget.
in your Proscape bid.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is, I would definitely, before we actually vote to approve this, I want to be contingent upon the fact that we can write in there that they've got like a probationary period or like a month to month, that we're not locked in for one full year.
No, there's a 30-day
You
out.
said 30 days, that's definitely 30 days. You know what, how bad can things get in a 30 day?
And it's still on bad for 5 months.
Right, in 5 months, but not 30 days. So I would caution, not to get locked in after 30 days. I would prefer that we write into the contract that we give them a 6-month probationary period. That if we don't like their services after 6 months, then we can cut them loose and find another option.
They
Have you
have,
had a chance to read the sample bid? The entire contract, we have 30 days notice to be able to.
At any time.
at any time, they're not
So
locked
that's
in.
your time.
It's
Okay,
any
not just the
time.
first 30.
No.
No, they're not locked in.
Okay, all right, that's good clarification. All right, so as long as we have it out.
Plus, they have said they want the first 30 days to be a big impact for the community. They want people to see the difference.
Yeah, you would hope that they're doing a
Yes.
great job.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, awesome.
I'm sorry, we're sticking to Robert's Rules of Order, so the only person that we'll be discussing is the board at this time, unless your name is called.
Were you here when we asked, right then, if you want to speak on the phone?
She wasn't.
Can you just, what's your name?
Christina.
Christy. And as soon as we're finished with the discussion, we're going to call on for each topic, if anybody has anything that's, if anybody has is on the list, and then you'll have your chance, your 3 minutes to speak, if that's okay. All right. Jim, did you have some comments?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, Christy?
Yes, I was just gonna say, after 30 days, if it's not as bad as you fear, I'm sure at some point that would be a breach of contract, and then then you would be able to already, if they would breach the contract, you would be able to get out of it anyways. So.
Well, they clarified, they basically said it's any 30-day period, so we've got, like 4 months, 5 months down the road, we're not happy, we let them know. Give them 30 days notice, and then we'll cut them loose.
Yeah.
Did anyone, I have somebody on like a half line here. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on the landscape contract? He wrote between lines. It might be on the committee, so just make sure. Nobody else? Okay. With the end of laborers contract, and we gave the notice, what is the plan of that?
January 24th. I'm sorry,
She comes to
sorry.
January.
The 24th, but would you like the new company to start July 1st? So we can start off the first month?
I'm going to make a motion that we accept Proscape as our new vendor upon negotiation of contract terms. Acceptance of our negotiation of contract terms.
I just have one more question. Have we considered like a transition type of thing whereby labor is going to handle off or at least show Proscape, the lay of the land, or is it just
Proscape has been on our property.
communication?
No, Proscape's been on our property 6 times at this point in time, taking measurements and
So there's no-
doing
there's
everything.
no transition, right?
And they will be here this next month to continue to oversee before they take over. Plus, Linda knows a lot of it, so.
I have a concern to bring up, this transition period between Blade Runner and Proscape. And I know, I think Mandy, you talked about this too. What is to prevent Blade Runner from doing some damage to the property as they go on?
There's nothing.
The law.
Like if they don't do it. I will tell you this, this is where you should find comfort. The fact is that the relationship with Blade Runner is still positive. And they are aware of that. So if this company is not capable of handling our contract, then there's a chance that Blade Runner could be looked at again. And for that reason alone, I don't think that they would risk the, but we have zero.
It's just a quick issue. That's just being this. According to what we're told by Leland, we're paying Blade Runner a month in advance. We want to make sure that we're getting the full term and if the payment stops and they complete the next month. So we're not paying for 2 services.
How did they address that? I wasn't even thinking about that. How did they address, we pay in advance?
They invoice on the 5th, but it is a net 30, so we won't be paying until the following month.
They said they'd be happy if they got it.
We actually negotiated that.
So we're actually at the end of the month, so we have time.
So we have,
What's the actual last date that labor will be?
June 24th is what Vanessa had just said. So I have a motion from Mandy and a second from
Yes.
Commissioner. All in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? Did someone else was landscape? I saw Jeff.
I just had a quick question. There's a 7-day lapse between June 24th and July 1st. It might be something to suggest if you have to start a week earlier and you prorate that week, so there's no actual gap. Since we prepaid in June, we would be missing 7 days of service. In the summer, we would need 1 or 2 cuts in that week more than
We
likely.
thought the resident fee would do it.
Hey, I gotta know.
All day, all night. Without your gloves.
We want to prorate, and this is a great point, we want to prorate ProSource, or do we want to just pay Blade Runners through the end of the month and add some additional days to what they've done?
Well, if we pay them a month in advance. Yeah. You don't want to pay for too far, they cut off.
So they don't have to, actually, they would finish until June 29th.
Right, they would finish till the last day, for the new company to start July 1st.
Okay, so we were going to
So what we would be getting is not a refund back from them for the last 6 days, we would have them continue service.
We see Blade Runner on what day is the last day? It's in May or?
Well, we told them June 24th, or we can tell them to finish the end of the month.
But when we pay them, the last paycheck. Do we pay in advance? You see that?
Do what you can and do your turn.
You were
Yeah,
saying
we don't pay
we
them
pay
until
June
the
1st
12th.
for all of June, or from June 1st to
Correct.
July? Okay, so we pay June 1st for all of June. that will, what we, I guess we're just giving an update on what has been done on the previous year, so we know about landscaping.
Well, we
Down
have
there,
a
we'll
landscape-
be on the website.
we have a landscape committee, we want to announce that, go clear now, that
I think that would be good.
okay. Website? Right now, what we're doing with the website is we've got several people on our committee, Jeff is one of them, and we are in the process of getting training through at-home gymnastics. And I've taken another class, and I've messed around with the website a little bit more than I had before. But it's a long, arduous process to get familiar with everything that's out there. So right now, we're in investigative mode. I haven't heard back from the other members yet, but they have taken it. So it took us a while to get going, and I don't know if you've taken the class yet.
I've been in there.
Okay. There's a lot of information out there. As far as I can see right now, as far as residents go, we have about 420 residents that have actually signed on to the website out of the 1,267 that we actually have out there. So we've got a ways to go. What we'd like to do is get some of us versed so that we can make some changes a lot quicker. And go ahead and see if we want to do some external things to it and make it a more robust site that people will want to go to right away when they sign on. And when we get to that point, I think that we can then start to proliferate the neighborhood and start getting them signed on. We'll get a flow of things or not.
Don, is everybody that was on the original list for the committee, are they still on the committee?
Yes.
I haven't heard anything different from them. Okay, I'm just making sure, because I know we lost some from landscape, so I want to make sure that we're.
Yeah, we're still there. I'm still waiting to see if we get some feedback from people that are taking the course. I'll send out another notice if we want to have another meeting, let's do that, to get some more understanding and clarification of what we're going to do. And then we'll go from there, but it's a little slow.
So what is your plan of action for this next one?
But we're still trying to get people trained, so I'm going to send out another email, see if we can get the training folks.
Still continuing to, okay.
I can say this, that I'm going to call them, I don't know if we've got the correct version out there, the website, because when I go to the training, they do a lot more fancy dance stuff than what we've got. So I don't know if we're just way behind in a version, or we just haven't got the, I don't know, Vanessa, do you know anything about that, as far as what version we're on?
As far as I know, they're the same. I mean, you can just make options, you can change it on things, under modules, or add it, edit.
Just don't have all the modules installed.
You can add.
I think they're all there, we just have.
They just need to be turned on. I think some of them are disabled.
Okay.
And I'd like to go ahead, I mean, we need to make some basic changes.
Yeah.
Let's put the picture up without a slide. Some things that, you know, it's a public site as well as a private site, so if we have people coming in their new homes, and things like that, we don't misrepresent anything at this point.
And we need to get our bylaw amendments out there too. I think we've got a basic copy.
Anyone else on the board that wants to talk? Anyways, if not, I'm going to take the people on the list here that wanted to speak towards it. And Lisa first.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I've lived here for 10 years, and I just wanted to start a discussion on starting up a social committee and try to bring the sense of community back. And I don't even really know where to start, but I just was throwing down some ideas of maybe ways that we could form some volunteer clubs, maybe things like book club or mommy's club or some potluck dinners or some running clubs or something like that. I think probably the first step would be having some sort of kickoff, maybe at the clubhouse, for people that would be interested in volunteering or hosting this type of club, either at their house or see who's interested. Maybe start with a survey on the website when that's active or something like that. So I just wanted to start the discussion for that.
Danny also?
We want to talk about the security committee. You mentioned last meeting starting one, hadn't heard anything on it. I've done a little research with Orange County with some of their crime stats. That's compared to the price we're paying currently for security. I asked Ms. Martinez for some security logs back in, I think it was February, March. And basically the security vendor refused to respond. So we had to go by what we've got, which is nothing at the point. Did a little cost analysis for what it would cost us if we hired Warren County deputies compared to security. We'd save about $130 minutes a week on what we're paying right now. A little less coverage, but we have too much time with security. I've heard the board, everybody just said it when they made a speech set for Jeff, since he didn't have to make a speech to run this year, that they want to save money and they're worried about liability.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You said you didn't make a speech last time, this time, because you didn't have to run. About everybody up there said they want to save money, save the residents money, and we're worried about liability. I know you're worried about liability.
Yeah.
Talking to the sheriff's office, the liability falls on Jerry Deming, not Cypress Lakes, so that's an issue for us. You know, less likely to be sued, not that we can't, but we could. We definitely need to get that going, because there's a saving right there of having Orange County deputies here as compared to security. A little less hours, but we have a lot of wasted hours right now in the early evenings, and security is not doing us any good. So if that committee gets started, we need to look at some of those issues. And Orange County is more than happy to talk to us.
I have one, excuse me, I have one more person on this list, and I apologize, I can't read the handwriting. Secbrski, is that the last name? Okay. If anyone else wants to speak on committees? Hey, Kathy. Is that you? Jeff?
It wasn't me, but I just wanted to throw some input. The one thing we talked about with the website, so everyone kind of knows the technology we wanted to go was we wanted to create our dream website, and that would be long-term, but we also wanted to create a short-term stopgap to make it more user-friendly, more interactive, more visual for helping selling homes, and just to be a pleasant, non-red and golden website. So that way, when we make some improvements over the next couple months, we can get input from everyone else, take your input, incorporate that into the dream website. So, we'll make changes in the next few months, and obviously we'll talk about them and make them, but, we want input from everyone to say, what would you like to see, what would you not like to see as well. So, don't think that we're
Let's
just...
make changes in this next month, so by the next meeting, we can be wow.
Yes.
That's not good.
All right, next up is new business. Suspend rates for collections.
Small list at the end package.
And if you want to review the list before you approve, you have any questions?
These are all
Overnight.
overnight. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rights of residents who are past 90 days in collections, past due in collections of 90 days, yeah.
This is 90. Second.
How many do we have?
You should have that back.
You have a
This is at 67. 67, correct? Do you want to say all?
So 73 is the total. All in favor?
Aye.
I don't have anybody on the list to speak for this, so if anyone else wants to speak, moving on to the next topic, which is village reps.
That was something that I was supposed to take charge of, and unfortunately, the landscape committee took a full-time job for the last 3 weeks, so I'm going to have to table village reps until our next meeting, but I promise you I'll have this. And he says
I did have one person on the list that did want to say something about it, so. Rich?
Yeah, I just wondered, how many people are going to be in charge of the audience? Okay, I was just saying that, I'm willing to help out.
You're from
Lexington.
Lexington, Kathy. And Sarah?
Good, next up is clubhouse personnel and on-site LCAM.
when we were developing the budget last fall, there was a suggestion made that perhaps we could have an on-site cam person because we know that Vanessa's got other clients besides us that she needs to take care of. And if we had an on-site cam person, they could, do the inspections around the neighborhood and keep a closer watch on things and make sure that things run properly. So we talked to Debbie Kolesser, who Vanessa works with, and she said, yeah, if you have an on-site cam person, then we can reduce our management fee. And so we were looking to save some expenses because we knew it was going to be tight and we didn't want to raise anybody's, quarterly assessment. So we discussed it amongst the board members. They thought it was a good idea. So they said, Jeff, work up the numbers with Debbie and stuff, which I did, and I did all the analysis for that. So basically what she said was that she was going to reduce her monthly fee by about $600 per month. It was basically 50 cents for every household, so 50 times the 1260 homes is about the $600. So that the annual reduction is about $7,600. So we thought that was pretty attractive. It was an area to save. We thought it would be good to have someone here on premises. And that's what's baked into the budget. Now I think we're starting to reconsider that. We're starting to reconsider whether or not maybe Liz is the right person. Even though she's got her training, she's inexperienced. I mean, she knows, she's got great historical knowledge of the facilities here, which is great, but her LCAM duties and all the stuff, the kind of stuff that Vanessa does, she doesn't have that yet, and it's going to take her time to acquire that knowledge base. So we're at a point now where we're trying to determine whether or not we really want her as an LCAM person. Now, the thing is, if we decide not to have her on site, and Debbie Kolesser is advising us not to go that route, the impact is going to be not the $7,600, but rather about $5,000 for the remainder of this year. So that means that we're going to go $5,000 over budget on the management fee line item. And the thing is that we have to make a decision on the board, to determine if we really want to do that. The thing is that if she does come on as an LCAM person, we already figured out how much she was going to be earning. That's already baked into the budget. So we could go over budget by a little bit. But the good thing is that, we just talked about the new landscaping contract. We're going to save about $7,500 a month for the remainder of this year once we go on board with Proscape. So that's a good thing. So those things kind of offset each other. So I just wanted to share that and throw it out there. That's just some of the historical basis, and I'll let the rest of you folks discuss or share what you know about the current situation.
In the historical, and I just have a question for you since you know the history of it. In the historical,
I can't get things when I walk in. I need the stuff in advance to do a proper analysis.
Can I go ahead and, can I state something really quickly? Because I want you guys to understand that although he's saying that our one line item of our management fee is going to be $5,000 over budget, our payroll and personnel expense for the janitorial, I know several of you have been complaining of having a $77,000 line item for our payroll personnel. If we eliminate our on-site LCAM, that means that we would also be taking our current LCAM, offering her the position to take her old position back, and she's agreed to do until she finds something to move forward on her career path. So we would have the savings of the 31 or her current salary back to the old one that she had before, as well as getting rid of the 70% management fee for having an on-site LCAM. So I did a very quick annual analysis, and it looks like we'd be saving the community an additional $30K a year. And the reason for this is because if we have our on-site LCAM, at this point in time, looking at the duties that we currently have to maintain, we're going to have to hire an additional personnel. So that line item of 70, or what we currently have for 77 is going to jump substantially higher.
And Jeff, your analysis is flawed in the story.
Okay.
And again, I cannot stress it enough. I know we're teammates here. We're teammates on the board, but that kind of analysis has got to be seen by all board members well in advance of the board meeting. I can't begin that thing when I walk in the door. That analysis is flawed because baked into that budget, that $77,000 line item, is what we were going to be paying Liz. It wasn't like we're going to be saving $30K by not having an LCAM.
And I don't show that. You can see, am I in an on-site LCAM and no on-site LCAM? I bake in her old salary back.
Jeff, while you're looking at that, you could just answer a historical question for me. When the board had decided to do the on-site LCAM, did they take into consideration that Liz would be flagged as a professional and not be able to perform certain duties, which would then, which would then possibly cause us to have to
we were under the assumption, and I guess that was an assumption, that she was not going to be able to continue with her regular maintenance duties. Although, on the phone call that we had last Tuesday, Debbie Klesser was saying, well, I don't see why she can't still do some of that stuff.
Some of it, but
And it was my understanding when I had to get off of that phone call, after 2 hours of being on a conference call, it was my understanding that the analysis was going to be done. Someone's going to sit with Liz and determine, hey, how much of the Leland responsibilities am I going to be able to assume, and how many of my old responsibilities am I going to be able to assume? I guess something changed, and a decision was made that we're not going to go that route. We're just not going to have the on-site.
That's why I didn't want to blindside and go to the
Right.
email
Yeah.
on some of the specifics that Debbie had mentioned, that she would definitely not fall under her criteria, which were really the significant portions of what she did here on a daily basis.
Okay.
So that's my concern around this whole thing, that it would actually cause us to increase costs, especially by just by hiring another contractor.
Especially at summer months.
Part-time person.
Part-time person, and there were, obviously, there's another thing worked in there with that we had a request from our personnel, person changes as well too. So if we're honoring those changes, that also has to be factored in.
I have a hard time digesting this. I don't have an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not going to handle all these numbers. It's not in my head. I don't feel comfortable making a decision on this. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Besides that, there are other situations that, and besides the finances, which clearly it is known that if you have an on-site LCAM, it's going to be more expensive than if you don't have an on-site LCAM. It's common sense. The exact savings we're not sure of at this time, but we would also like to point out that one of the reasons, or several of the reasons that we were thinking that on-site LCAM might not benefit our community at this time is, one, we just recently had an experience where several people were upset over violations that they received, and they were complaining up to the clubhouse, to our clubhouse staff, not our on-site LCAM, because she was not on duty. Unfortunately, it created for a hostile environment, or an aggressive, not a hostile, an aggressive environment for our other people who are coming to use the facilities, and just make for an uncomfortable experience. You want your clubhouse to be light, airy, happy, fun-loving.
It was on a Saturday, they were lined up outside the door, which took her away from all the duties of watching the pool and the cameras and everything else that goes on.
The other issue that we had is because we were advised by our senior Leland consultant to not have them, is because she's an inexperienced LPM. And so she is taking over probably, what would you say, 1/12 of your current workload, or, and that's just of this property alone, not even including all of your other properties. So we couldn't justify how we could make that a full-time position and justify her salary. Because she's a professional and has been just very accepted with her work as a con, she can't do the things that she used to be able to do. She can't do pressure fitting. She can't paint our baseboards. She can't clean the toilets. But she would do light cleaning, and mopping would be included in that as well. So when she's here and our other associate or our other pool personnel is not here, there's no one that is able to make sure that the maintenance that needs to be done, which we always need somebody full-time to be able to do it, will be handled. A perfect example was yesterday when we were here at meetings. There was trash all along the pool deck. There were ducks swimming in the pool. There was
It's water, come on.
there was duck feces on the side of the pool. There was no one there for the maintenance. There was no one there to maintain the community clubhouse to make sure that it looked nice.
And then the other side of this also, just so that, is because she's inexperienced, we're getting her, I think, at a pretty good rate if we did go that route. However, Debbie also mentioned that if we were looking for someone experienced, if we did want to have someone with on-site LCAM that was experienced, the salary would be significantly higher. So that's also a factor. The only one I have I'm not touching that too. You want to do that before that? Let's do it before we call it. We did have another motion we wanted to talk about that was baked into the on-site LCAM, and that had to do with Marianne. and it had to do with a salary increase as well as moving her to full-time. And we had a little bit of this discussion in the closed board meeting as well. I think most of us agree to this, but I want to make sure that, because we're all sitting here, that we would like to increase Maryland's dollar an hour raise as well as move her to full-time so that we were staffed. And if we can't make the decision on the LCAM today, if you need more time to research this, I would at least like to make the decision on getting this moved through. But,
Well, I feel comfortable saying that. We shared emails on this. I feel comfortable giving her an extra $1 per hour. And she is on full-time during the summer months anyway. That's what we baked into the budget.
we also had there was one other piece of it written.
She wanted a week's vacation and 3 personal days.
I don't know if you have that piece of it or not yet. I wasn't sure if we had left the top before that.
Yeah, we can absorb that for this year because, yeah, we can absorb that. The impact's not going to be all that huge for this year. We're talking about maybe 3K total, as far as that goes. So I don't have a problem with that. Bringing her on full time though, I don't know. That's it. We'd have to bring her on full time if we have an on-site healthcare.
Yes.
So did you wait and clarify this for me?
And I would say we would bring her on full-time regardless, because we know Liz is not going to be with us permanently, so Mary Ann would be pretty much a supervisor in training, especially in this area, a supervisor in training to be able to take that position closer. And finds her career advancement. We don't have a determined date on that.
Not knowing some of the numbers and whatnot, is if we give Mary Ann a raise, does that, we will get her about what Liz was.
It will write exactly where it is, yes, that's exactly.
So the reason for the dollar increase is we're going from part-time to full-time?
She hasn't had one. She is a merit as well.
Yeah.
Oh, a merit increase?
Merit as well. And she's had one. What's the last thing?
I presented a question to someone, I asked the question, but
December
I didn't
2011?
answer.
December 2011?
So I'm going to break this
February
up.
2012.
Break this up into, I think we're all in agreement with that, but so we break this up into a couple things. I'd like a motion that we move Mary Ann to full-time and give her the dollar raise as well as the other little perks that she asked for, vacation and personal days. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Opposed? Just let me tell you that you may take some questions when we go through this. I have, first on here for this is Linda.
Okay, for the on-site LCAM, I can't see that that is going to be a cost-effective thing, regardless of whether you either have Liz here, but she is new, and that would be probably a disaster for her, starting out with LCAM. If, and in her contract, she's not going to have duties, like we were talking about, for doing mopping, all this stuff, it's LCAM's not going to do that in their scope of work. Now, in the summer, like Trish said, you're going to need 2 people, which means you're going to have to hire somebody else, which at whatever rate, however much it costs, then that's going to be an additional cost on this. So, is it going to be cost effective to do this?
That's exactly what I'm just saying.
I don't know who's first here.
I was also going to say, did you guys also factor in unemployment for letting someone go? Like, I mean, I just was an HR manager once, and that's a pretty big cost usually.
I think we have unemployment insurance, though, wouldn't we?
Well, we don't have it. I think that all falls under right now.
Right, we don't pay Leland a fee, they actually.
Yes, and I don't believe we should be charging any additional fee. Because I think unemployment insurance,
That shouldn't play into factor either, because if anyone leaves voluntarily, that's not going to be.
Well, we're not saying.
She's going to say, she's going to still make a decision, but she will not leave us empty-handed. She'll give some, enough notice to train and.
Did you guys hire 2 part-timers?
It's 2 part.
Yeah, we need 1 full-time person.
We need 1 part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cheaper to hire 2
Meaning a full-time and 2 part-timers?
What do we have now?
We have a full-time and 1 part, well, she's full-time in the summer months, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let me understand this. So if we have no on-site camp, Liz is going to continue working with her same job, 40 hours a week, but Mary Ann's going to go to full-time.
Liz will continue full-time on her old job responsibilities at her
Right.
old pay rate.
Right.
Mary Ann will also take that same, kind of like being your supervisor in training as Liz is getting ready to start.
Right, but is she going to work just part-time, just 32 hours in the non-summer months? Or is she going to be 40
No,
hours?
full-time.
40 hours per round?
Yeah.
Okay.
Liz made it clear that she would like to run her career. I don't know what she has lined up, but she would not.
We'll stay here until she's ready.
Guys,
Exactly, we'll stay here until she's ready.
Dan?
I see a problem if something happens that Liz decides, no, I'm gonna stay, because she's happy and you can't find another job. Now we've got 2 full-time people and a part-time person. There's gotta be some type of coverage for
No,
us.
just 2 at a time, just 2 full-time.
I don't see that we have a need here for 2 full-time people all year long. Summertime, yes, when more people here, I think it's a waste of our money. I had a conversation with Debbie down at Leland, and she was against having the LCAN here, so I don't see the need to spend our money for 2 full-time with benefits and vacation and
No,
unless something different, are we gonna have to pay more for unemployment benefits, workman's comp issues, because Leland
No.
is having to pay those, there's no additional cost, okay? I see it's a waste of our money to have 2
health
full-time.
insurance or any of that.
Okay, I need to understand the spreadsheet too, because I have a question as well. Jeff, I'm just going to answer your question when I ask this. This cost savings here that you have at the end of $30,000 is showing both Liz and Mary Ann 40 hours a week, which would be, they would both be, you're saying that they both be full-timers, but we still have that savings?
Yes, this is what we would have with our on-site camp, minus our non-on-site camp, added back in the management fee increase of the $7,608, which was calculated by 50 cents per $1,268.
Okay, so Dan, to answer a little bit of that, as it looks on this sheet, I'm not saying that these are gospel yet, but as it looks on this sheet, how Mandy has calculated it is it would still be with both part-timers a savings of $30,000. And I think for them both being full.
Okay, if it wasn't answered earlier, when was this budget for this year passed? At what point did the board, the last board, when did they make this year's budget?
It was either October or November. It was October.
At that time, had they already figured in Liz going to be an LCAM and that cost?
That's exactly what was baked into the budget, that's what I shared. with you.
Okay.
That was the historical knowledge.
Okay, then how are we $5,600 over our management budget when we haven't paid her, I guess, the extra fees to be the LCAM? How are we over with Leland?
What I shared was that if we do not go with an on-site LCAM, then we're going to be $5,000 over budget. Because Leland's not going to give us the discount for having an on-site CAM person. They were giving us a discount, like $600 a month, times 12 months, it's like $7,000. But at this point, we're 4 months into the year, so the impact for the remainder of this year is going to be $5,000. We're going to end up spending more on a management fee line item than anticipated if we don't have an LCAM. But we could have some additional savings, that Mandy baked into this analysis.
That's another thing.
That's for both of them, that doesn't require the analysis.
Okay.
Regardless, using both.
Okay, gotcha, okay, sorry, okay.
Someone else said, was Jeff next?
The other thing I want to hope you guys consider too is I'm not for or against LCAM being onsite or offsite. Doing with Vanessa has been great. Everything I've ever asked I've gotten by email or by phone call, I get it. So there's something to say about service. You probably don't get that compliment often. So that's something you want to consider too, because it's 1,300 homes on it. It's a lot of work. I don't know this personally, if she's up to it or not. That's a lot. So
Well, that's what my concern is handling the size of the community and the experience that she has. Very scared.
Well-
No, I mean, just hypothetically, if you were in Liz's position, would you accept that position?
I've never been an onsite camp. My 6 years I've done portfolio, so I can't tell you like.
Knowing the environment of our community,
She would be
And I kind of wanted, and I kind of wanted to ask a question further with that is, because I know I've worked with you personally, I've gone to Leland's Facebook, I've seen events you guys do, other than just the LCAM certification, how much training do you get from Leland on an annual basis? I mean, I
Every
imagine.
month.
Right, and I think we
I go
don't,
to CAI trainings, and we have in our office, we go to the CAI training as well. So I would say twice a month I have to go to training.
and that adds up over 6 years, so. That's all I wanted to ask.
So we're looking at 2 full-time people at all times, or just 2 full-time different times?
It looks like different, 40 hours a week.
But they're not going to be each at the same time, or is it?
Sometimes they overlap, no, sometimes they overlap, and over the weekend, of course.
I had someone else up front that had a question. Linda?
Yeah, he said we would be over budget, like you said, 5,000. Okay. But that's gonna, if you have increased the hours, right? For somebody that's part-time now, that's going to eat that up, right?
Well, the thing is, there's so many moving pieces here. There's so many moving pieces. We've got 2 separate line items, okay? We have one line item in the general and administrative line. It's called management fee. That's just Leland, right? So we would have saved about $7,000 a year by having them on board. And that's what's in the budget. That's what we figured we were going to do. But now we're reconsidering that because we don't know if this is the right person, so on, so everything we just discussed. So now we're thinking, okay, you know what? Well, you know what? We're going to save a little money because we're not going to pay her the higher salary. But as a result, we're not going to get the minimum discount either.